Greetings and peace. Tonight I have the honor and privilege and pleasure of my brother, the wise Asiatic Allah, 5%. And I've always been fascinated with the 5% as you have seen my YouTube video, how like they teach this supreme knowledge, supreme alphabets, and how that knowledge is so pivotal right now in today's society. So I've been wanting to get on my brother Wise Asiatic Allah in here for a very long time, and I'm so blessed and humbled with the will of Allah and the blessings of the Creator that my brother is here today. So without further ado, greetings and assalamu alaikum.
Peace, peace.
So thank you for joining us, my brother. I wanted to ask you right now in these pivotal times that we're living in, what can we learn from the 5% nation in terms of the knowledge of keeping oneself centered?
Well, one thing that we teach is to stand on your square. And standing on your square, standing on principle and moral. And we're living in some very, very critical times right now. So you have to stand on your square. And in our supreme mathematics, the number one is knowledge. And before you do anything, you should always do the knowledge first, because you cannot be a wise man if you do not know. So you should do the knowledge to everything that you come in contact, because you want to know what you're dealing with
Hmm.
instead of just jumping into something head first without any knowledge of
I agree. And that brings me to my next question is how did your life lead you to the 5% and how has it benefited you in your overall spiritual growth?
5% led me back to Islam. And I say that because when I went to when I went to stay with my father as a child, my father had converted to traditional Islam.
Right.
And that was my first exposure to Islam. This was my first time having a pork-free diet. I lived with my father for 2 years as a child. So this was my first time having a pork-free diet, you know, living outside of the norm.
Right.
That was my first time. And it was also my first time, having discipline, you know, of waking up early in the morning for morning prayer.
Right.
That it takes discipline to do that. It takes discipline to fast during the month of Ramadan. It takes discipline to not eat pork and a lot of the things that I used to love, like the certain candies and things or of that nature has pork in it. So it took discipline to do that.
Right.
But as I went back to live with my mother, I started to get back into, the way of an 85. And when I turned 21, I was looking for the truth, a change in my life.
Mm.
And I came across Supreme Understanding books and watching his videos on YouTube, very popular at the time
Mm.
when I was 21. I would say that was about 9 years ago. But yeah, this is very popular. You know, his books, How to Hustle and Win, and Knowledge of Self and Science of Self. All of these books were influential on my growth and development. So
Mm.
I was living in Dallas at the time. So I had reached out to the 5% that was living in Dallas, and it was never I was never looking back from there. And, you know, the 5% teaches that our Islam is mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
And mathematics is the language of the universe. And once you understand mathematics, you understand the science of everything in life in no limit of time.
That's right.
So this is why I said the 5% led me back to Islam, because I thought that, when I had, stopped living, with my father, that, like, yeah, that was pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was seeking righteousness and the truth, Islam was there again.
I thank you, my brother, for sharing this because it shows you that there are two type of people that we're dealing with in this life. One that have discipline and the one that don't have discipline. And you see like the type of life that you led with everything that you've been through in your personal life, in your spiritual life. It was your discipline from that early age, that foundation, which is serving you till this day. And finding that even in Sufism, they teach us the same thing. Find that God within yourself where you're looking outside, you're looking over here, but Allah is always within your heart. And I always resonated that with the 5% Nation. And what made me to even make my own video, which goes to my next question is, how do you see the 5% philosophy and teachings correlate with Sufism, like your spiritual Islam and Freemasonry's teachings? Because I know many people have misconceptions about those things.
Yes, yes. There are a lot of similarities, especially when dealing with our lessons that
Right.
we studied, which came from the Nation of Islam. In those, in those lessons, we see that what Elijah Muhammad was, the message that he was giving us in those lessons was to look in.
Mm.
And whenever you study people like Bawa Muhadi Adin, Ibn Arabi, Hazrat Inayat Khan, they always spoke about the spiritual centers within man, and that you must look within to understand this life around you, and
Mm.
that everything that we see around us is just a reflection of ourselves, even the insect, even the little ants that we see on the ground.
Right.
It is all connected, because the same life form that is within you is within the birds in the sky to the fishes in the sea. And I remember when I was studying Hazrat Inayat Khan,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a beautiful saying that God is closer to man than than water is to the fishes in the sea. And that was very profound to me, because this is what the father Allah, Elijah Muhammad, saying the same thing just in a different way.
Indeed. Indeed.
You have to look within you, because God has no identity outside of man. So he operates in man and as a physical man, because we don't know about anything in life without the enlightenment of man, to the names of insects, animals, plants, planets. These are all named by man.
Mm-hmm.
And if God is the source of all knowledge, then God is man and man is God. Simple.
Indeed. Indeed. And you know what it is, my brother. You touched on a very, very good point because one of Ibn Arabi's teachings I was reading, it said that only Allah can worship Allah, and Allah sent Himself to Himself through Himself. So Allah is described as this beautiful divine reality, and it's trying to understand itself through its creation. meaning Allah is the only reality, whether it's myself, whether it's you, my brother, any other life form, the birds, the trees. It's all a manifestation of that one being experiencing itself through these different life forms. Ultimately, we are part of that divinity. And this is what I really loved about the 5% teaching. And so many people, especially in America, they have it misunderstood that this is a hate group. And I tell them it's about either you're righteous or you're a devil. And that's what they teach is like about the righteousness and about going against the darkness. So please explain that for those that think that the 5%ers are a hate group.
Well, we teach that we are not pro-black and anti-white. We are pro-righteousness and anti-devilish. And basically, in a nutshell, a 5%er will build along the righteous,
Mhm.
and we will not stand with the unrighteous. It doesn't matter if you black, white, regardless of your religious background, your creed, your race. We will stand with you if you are practicing and exercising righteousness.
Indeed, indeed.
And the reason why we say that we are not pro-black is because there are some black people who do devilishment. And if I am pro-black, then that means I am pro that.
Right.
And I don't agree with that. So I'm pro-righteousness. I will stand with a European who is righteous. I will stand with a Buddhist because they are righteous people. The reason why people have it confused and think that we are a hate group is because whenever you look in our lessons, the first two in the 1 through 10 says who is the original man. The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe. And then the next lesson is who is the colored man. The colored man is the Caucasian white man or Yakub's grafted devil of the planet Earth. Now, when we look at that, like, oh, that's hate. No, let's look at it. Now, not all European history on Earth is bad, but the majority of it is. And that's just the reality.
Hmm.
But there are people like Neville Goddard, righteous man,
Yeah.
Alan Watts,
Hmm.
who has a very profound book on Buddhism
Hmm.
called Buddhism, the Religion of No Religion. And that is a profound book. And Alan Watts was awakened and he was righteous and he saw God as man. So not all Europeans were bad. Rumi, the Sufi poet from Persia. A lot of people think that Rumi was a Persian, and his name, Al Rumi, means the Roman,
Hmm.
you know. But Rumi was a peaceful man who saw God as man, God within, and that's what he taught. So there are some Europeans who did righteous things on earth and who were spiritually awakened. It's just the majority of the European history on earth was bad. And we have to tell the truth about that. But there are 5%ers in the 5% nation who are white and
Yeah,
they
you know
live a right life.
that's interesting you bring that up because when I looked into the teachings of Father Allah and the type of life that he led and what he passed on to the 5% in terms of the teachings, not just for 5%, but for all humanity who can benefit from that teachings and knowledge. And you are absolutely right because even myself in my travels, coming from a Pakistani Muslim background, dealing with those people all over the world, good and bad exist in all races, religions, and groups of the world. And that's exactly the truth that the five percenters are teaching, which I believe is that is the ultimate truth about you're either on one side or you're on the other. You can't let anything else bring any kind of boundary or separation between the two. And I really like that, my brother.
Indeed. You, you know, a lot of people in this life try to serve two masters, and they drive themselves insane, and they end up living a life of sorrow and full of regret trying to serve two masters. And this is the point of the 5% saying that we teach all human families of the planet Earth, because we have a lot in common with the Sufis and the Buddhists. And the reason why I say that is because, Buddha once said that I did not bring you another world religion. The world has enough of that. What I have brought to you is the ending of suffering, the
Right.
knowledge that gives you the ability to think on your own and to make the right decision. Because a lot of human beings are suffering for the lack of knowledge. But once we store up knowledge in this muscle, which is the most powerful muscle than any physical muscle in the body, is the brain, the mind, and you store it up with knowledge, you will end your suffering.
Mhm.
And that's basically what the 5% here is here to teach. If you was to come to the show and prove that which we have every summer after a law school in Mecca, which is Harlem, New York, you will see people from Japan. You will see Pakistani 5%ers. You will see people from Afghanistan, India, people coming from Africa, people coming from Europe, from all over the world. This is why we call Harlem the Mecca, because just like the Hajj looks in Saudi Arabia, people from all over the world, we make that happen in Harlem, New York every year.
Alhamdulillah,
People,
that's beautiful.
yeah, so
And
we
it's
can't be,
interesting, but yeah, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, we can't be a hate group, because if we were a hate group, people from all over the world wouldn't have come to build with us, to learn from us. You know, even one of our most profound authors, Supreme Understanding, he's from
Mhm.
Bangladesh
Right, right.
and has some of the
And
most profound out here.
that's the beauty of it all. I mean, that's what made me look into the 5% as well and teach that knowledge to a lot of the people in my Islamic community, because I was dealing with a lot of people in my Islamic community who were thinking, why do they have Allah in their name? They were thinking it as a form of blasphemy. And I'm like, you know what? I have to make this video. I have to educate them. And when I made that video, so many people in the Islamic community reached out to me and they say, thank you. Now I understand who the five percenters are. They're peaceful people. They're striving for knowledge. They're trying to teach you to find Allah within yourself, just like how Islam and Sufism does. So I'm glad that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, used me for that privilege and honor to bridge those gaps, not just with the Islamic community, but many in the Masonic community who also had misconceptions about the five percenters. And I thank you, my brother, for confirming everything in terms of who the five percenters are and what they have contributed to humanity. But I thank you dearly for that.
Oh, indeed. And I thank you as well. You know, a lot of my brothers in the nation, they will tell you that, yeah, we are not Muslims, we're not Masons, because, the Father of Allah taught us that, you are gods and your woman is the earth.
Hmm.
And and if a European, wants to be a part of our nation, we'll teach him that he is a civilized man.
Hmm.
We don't teach any hate, you know. We just have to teach the truth. And we also teach the truth about the original man, the black man's mistakes, because we have made a lot. I mean, even if you look back in the history of the Moorish Empire,
Mm-hmm.
the Moors, the Europeans got tired of the Moors ruling over them because we had depopulated tribes. We depopulated certain islands up there with Iceland and England during slavery, practicing slavery. And if they were practicing Islam to the core, Prophet Muhammad did not advocate slavery.
Yes, that's right.
So that was something that they should not have gotten into. Now, Europe was falling, and the Moors needed to go there to bring civilization because they had entered another dark age, but we didn't need to exercise slavery. You know, the only thing that we needed to exercise was to show them, you know, how to live a civilized, righteous life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that came back, you know, to haunt us. Well, you know, a lot of people look at slavery, you know, on the degree that the European has did it to us, and we have to look at what we did to them first.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed, the black man did not practice slavery the way that the European did, but slavery is slavery. It's still wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And Moors were more interested in capturing women, European women, to be slaves so that they can be concubines to them.
Mm-hmm.
Moors did not allow noble European men to have a daughter of Africa. No, they didn't allow that. So, well, what do you think was going to happen? There was going to be some friction. And there's enough land on the planet Earth for us to establish our home without causing conflict and war. You know, this is the whole point of what's going on now, is to show us the ugly side of man and to learn from it.
Right.
You know, Neville Goddard once said in one of his lectures that man is a pre-existing being born in the world of death and decay,
Mm-hmm.
tested to see if he can overcome it. And that stood out to me because even in the Quran it says that, you know, do you think that you will be I forget what it says, but it says something like, do you think that man will just be sitting around saying we believe without being tested? No.
Yeah,
This is a
that's
plan.
basically there's a verse in the Holy Quran that says Allah will test you with good and evil, and to Allah you will be returned, meaning that both good and evil come from that creator who's testing you in this life, but he's also teaching you to have faith in destiny and know that one day your life will come to an end. So use your life for righteous reasons.
Indeed. You know, we can't, you know, travel through life and thinking that, you know, we won't be tested on. You know, no, that's not how it works. You know, even when man was coming out of the hunting gatherer stage, you know, us dealing with the beast of the earth, you know, these different animals and all, that was a test.
Right.
And look how far we have came from that. Now we have airplanes, cell phone. You know, we don't even use house phones anymore. You know, this this is from, you know, life giving us many tests because, you know, civilization is a process with many setbacks and failures. But as you keep exercising the mind, you overcome it.
Right.
You overcome those tests, you know, and this is why we say that mathematics is the language, because through math, you can always solve your problem.
That's right.
even man talking to another man, having the ability to reason with another man, that's mathematics because we're solving the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what separates man from the animal kingdom is that the man has the ability to use his mind and there's no limitations on it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, a lion in the wild, he doesn't have the ability to reason like man. If there is a cub not of his bloodline, he'll kill it. But
Mm-hmm.
man, we have the ability to reason and show mercy.
That's right.
And when we don't use our mind, we are no different from animals. So we have to continue to grow in our knowledge and to leave behind platforms like this so that our children can come back and look at this and transcend.
Thank you, my brother. I really appreciate that. And it's absolutely true. It's about finding that truth and oneness within yourself and to know what mercy and forgiveness that has been granted in your heart, which you are given the responsibility to impart on others. And what is the reason why Allah has said in the Holy Quran that I have made man basically my vicegerent on this earth, meaning you are a representation of that divinity. Everything on this land, its resources, everything has been provided to mankind. But if we choose to live in righteousness, then this world could have peace, it could have abundance, it could have prosperity for all the beings of this earth who choose not to live in disunity, devilishment, or greed of any kind. And I thank you for teaching the things that you have, which goes to my next question is basically anyone in the 5%, let's say they have any misconceptions towards traditional Islam or Masonry, what would you say to those brothers in terms of finding that oneness in all of the teachings?
Well, there are a lot of my brothers who been around certain people who were practicing masonry,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll see them not taking it serious. Like they'll say things like, "Oh yeah, I see Masons who eat pork. I see Masons who believe in a mystery God and things like that." It's like this: a student in the school is still a student, whether
Mm-hmm.
he's failing or passing. You are still a student in that school.
That's right.
So you have to connect with the like minds in Masonry and traditional Islam. You have to connect with the like minds to get things done. Just sitting in the back disagreeing on what you stand on and what they stand on is going to be a waste of time. So you have to connect with the people who have knowledge. And this is why I always say there's a 5% in each walk of life. There's a 5% in Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, in all walks of life.
That
And
is
we
the
have to
truth.
connect. We have to connect with each one and get things done.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that people don't understand about masonry is that a lot of these pastors at churches and things like that, a lot of them be Mason and they're practicing Islam in secret.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't reveal that to the average man. Okay, we'll let that man live his life the way that he is. But to the Mason who takes it serious, connect with him because he's not going to practice the Islam in secret. He's not going to you know, as you do. You keep it authentic as you can. And this
Ab-
is why me and you are right here. Because you represent that 5% within that walk of life. That's the best way to do it.
Indeed.
It's the same thing with our traditional, our brothers who practice traditional Islam. I'm not going to sit up and disagree with a Sunni or a Shia and they say, oh yeah, law is not man and da 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 da. That's where their understanding is. So there's no need to sit up and argue and bicker with him. I just need to connect with the like mind, which would be the Sufi.
My brother, that's a great point you bring up. This reminds me of a verse from the Holy Quran, and where Allah says in there that there are some people that will be kept deaf, dumb, and blind, no matter how much you try to educate them. And those are the 85% that exist in all communities. Just like how you have good and bad that exist in all races, religions, and communities and groups of the world, same thing in Masonry. I ran across those that were past masters, 32nd, 33rds. A lot of them don't have any esoteric knowledge. Then you runs into the ones that do. So it's the ones whose eyes are opened up. So it's that 5% within each community. And I remember I was speaking to this brother one time, and he said, don't sweat it too much, because at the end, people are going to be people, no matter where you are. So you have to realize that you're going to find those that get it, whether it's in the Islamic community, Masonry, any community of the world. And there are going to be those that don't. And it's about being authentic, because one of the 99 names of Allah in Islam is Al-Basir, and Al-Basir is the all-seeing eye, the Masonic symbolism of Allah always watching you. And that tells you that you are always being watched. Your character, your heart inside of you, everything is being observed by Allah. And one day when you leave this earth, you do have a spiritual price to pay, depending on whether you did good or bad in your life, as your heart gets weighed on a scale. And that's ultimately the spiritual struggle, my brother, that we're in. That's what we're currently dealing with right now. And I thank you very much for the things that you have shared. Which goes to my next question. In today's times of chaos, where everything is kind of changing in terms of relationships, jobs, education system, people are not committing anymore. They're not marrying anymore. It's so much heartbreak that I see that's going on out here. How can the knowledge from supreme mathematics, supreme alphabets, and all that knowledge of Father Allah and the 5% can benefit us in this time of great spiritual struggle?
Great question. Great question. The 5% we teach that in order to be a successful community, man and woman
Mm.
have to deal with things as adults, and we have to be on the same page, same accord, because we that the babies are the greatest because they are our ticket to the future. You cannot raise a child properly without being whole, without having a mother and a father. And this has been the struggle since the 1960s, when feminism and all of this being independent has started to enter the minds of people.
Mm.
And a lot of people are falling for that trick.
Yes.
And that is separating us from the divine oneness.
Hmm.
Masculine and feminine exist on all planes of life. So a man is not whole until he has a woman, and a woman is not whole until she has a man. And you cannot raise up great children without the influence of both. So we have to learn how to balance that out. In supreme mathematics, knowledge could be alike to the sun, wisdom alike to the moon, understanding alike to the star, man, woman, and child. So we have to keep our knowledge, our wisdom, and our understanding intact in order to be successful. Because if you don't have that first three, your foundation will not be strong at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the relationship between the sun and the earth.
Indeed, they complement
We
each
wouldn't
other, the
be able
masculine and
to
feminine.
have, right. We wouldn't be able to have life on this earth without the sun.
That's right.
And this is why we teach, and this is why we teach that, you know, as a man, you must be the sole controller. You must be the rock that your woman is able to lean on. Because all of the pressure that we're putting on women today to lead communities and to be single mothers, they were not made to operate like that. Women were made to be a helpmate to you, but you must be the leader.
That is absolutely
You know,
right. And that's what I see right now in the communities going on, especially in TikTok, where the woman is being degraded on a daily basis, and these other platforms, which has kind of degenerated that relationship between a man and a woman. So you got to realize who benefits from breaking up the man and the woman. It's an economic factor, because now instead of one household and one fridge, now the individuals have to get two separate homes, pay two separate rents. You have two separate fridges. So there's an economic factor, more taxpayers, you're putting more people in the workforce. So there are people at the top that benefit because when everyone splits up, the family splits up, you're creating more taxpayers. They're going to need their own things. They're going to buy more stuff. And this was all a factor by the powers that be to split up the man and the woman. And even in traditional Islam, my brother, they teach us that a man is not whole until he marries a woman, and vice versa for a woman for a man. Because Bismillah Rahman Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, Rahman is the feminine, and the Rahim is the masculine. Even in the name of Allah, in Islam, you have the masculine and feminine. One cannot exist without the other. That androgynous energy of the Creator, when they tell us that your faith is not complete until you marry. And that is so true, even what the five percenters are teaching about man, woman, and child. And I see that going on so much here in the communities here, where the communities are broken up, the father is not allowed to see the kids, or some issues going on with the parents, then the kids are growing up traumatized. So this system has a lot to answer for in terms of the damage that it's done to that man, woman, and child paradigm. And it's very interesting to see right now in these times of chaos, where are we going to go in the next 5 years, 10 years, where the world as we know it is kind of ending in many ways. And in terms of what the 5% teach about the black man being the cream of the crop, I went to Pakistan in 2019 and I saw indigenous Pakistanis who look just like you. They're the original people. So those remnants of those communities still exist all over the world, whether it's the Moors of England, the Moors of Spain, the African rulers of India and Pakistan. They won't teach you this in the history books. You have to look this up. It's like that article that I sent you one time about the African rulers who had ruled those parts of the world. And their descendants are still there. That's so interesting because people have to look at reality not through a narrow-minded point of view, because then that way you don't learn. This is what I truly love about what Father Allah taught and what I have the honor and privilege of learning from you. So I thank you.
indeed,
So
indeed.
which
You
that
know,
goes to my next question, my brother, is let's say if today was your last day on earth, what would you tell the people that love you and you love them, especially in these times of chaos, with your knowledge as the great man you are, what advice would you give for all humanity?
The advice that I would give is don't submit to these so-called social norms. Ask yourself, does this make sense?
Right.
Don't just accept anything on face value, and give your best to the children, because life is going to continue to grow on this planet. It's going to continue to evolve, and we're going to keep going through these cycles of change. And change is the only thing that stays consistent. So give your best to the children, and don't submit to these so-called social norms. You know, we have to get our masculine and feminine in balance. We have to get it in check, because if you don't, you're going to continue to live a life of suffering and chaos, and it's not going to do you any good. If you want change for the better, just take it through the steps of mathematics, starting from one, and continue to grow from that. Because the children have suffered enough from the breaking up of man and woman, and this whole thing of man saying he doesn't need a woman and a woman saying that she doesn't need a man is very immature thinking whenever you look at it. It's very immature, because we all came out of the womb of our mothers, but before that, we came out of the sperm of our fathers. So they had to come together for us to exist on this planet. So that right there, just that little bit right there tells you that we need each other. So, this whole thing of separating man and woman and having this little gender war, it's really to make the rich rich. Because whenever you look at most rich men, they have wives. Donald Trump has a wife. He's one of the richest men on the planet. You know, he may not have, a traditional life, but he has someone to give him comfort in his life.
Right.
So even these bankers and Rothschild and the Rockefeller, they all had wives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most imams and pastors, they have wives because they know
Indeed.
that we can't exist without each other. And the only reason why the powers that be are teaching that is because they're becoming ridiculously greedy. This is all out of greed. They're selling our people a lifestyle that they would never live.
That's
Donald
exactly.
Trump would never tell. He would never tell his son, "You don't need no woman. Just go unmarried for the rest of your life and make decisions slop." He will never teach his son that, but they'll sell it to you because it makes them more money. The owners of these record companies and things like that and media, they sell the people a lifestyle that they would never live and that they would never advocate to their children. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to look, and you have to look at the plan, because it's happening in plain sight. It's just the 85%. They're deaf, dumb, and blind. It's hard for them to hear. It's hard for them to see, and it's hard for them to think. You know, we have to really look at what the governments of this world is doing to people. They have made people not only physically lazy, but mentally lazy, to the point that they don't even want to think for themselves. You have to look at that.
You know, that is true, so true, my brother. And I'm taking it all in with the all of the knowledge that you're giving me and to the audience that's watching. And it's so true, this conspiracy that has taken against the man, woman, and child, how everything's this whole system's been kind of broken up. And it's gonna come a time where how long can it go on for? It's gonna come a time where things are gonna crash in some kind of way because we're not naturally built to handle this. That's why there's so much trauma, emotional abuse, people that are over medicated going to therapies because they know something is out of balance in their life. Something is out of balance within that human psyche, that human body that's teaching them
Yeah.
that you be by yourself, you don't need anybody, just have like a few flings here on the side and don't have any regard for the human person. You're just treating each other as objects of gratification. And that's basically the age that we're living in this social media generation, where they just want to put stuff up and get likes and get that dopamine rush, but not realize that person might look like a certain way on social media, but in reality, it might be totally something else. So we need that discernment. You're right. We need that discernment and realize we need each other. We can't let these social norms, like you said, don't cooperate with a lot of these social norms, which kind of produce an artificial reality. So I thank you for that, my brother. And which goes to my next question is, what lesson can you give us for today's mathematics?
Today's mathematics. Today's mathematics is understanding cipher, all being born to understand. Understanding is the best part of life, and a cipher is a person, place, or thing.
Right.
So if you want to be successful in life, understand the ciphers that you are coming in contact with. You know, like how, for instance, when man was in the hunting gathering stage, we didn't know the difference between plants that were good and plants that were bad. We had to figure it out. We had to understand that cipher, that there
Indeed.
are some plants that are poisonous and there are some plants that are good for us. But now that we know and we've recorded what is good and what is bad, you know, that's better for the next generation.
Right.
Because now they don't have to go through, we don't have to go through what our forefathers went through in the hunting gathering stage. We know what poison ivy looks like. You know, we know don't agitate a gorilla because it is a strong beast that can kill you in the snap of its finger. Don't agitate a lion. You know, that's understanding the cipher,
Mm.
all being born to understanding. And once it's born to the understanding, that is the supreme understanding. And once you have that supreme understanding, you will walk through life smoothly. Now, yes, there will always be some bumps in the road. That just comes with life. But when you have a supreme understanding, that bump in the road will not last long.
Indeed, my brother. And thank you for educating us on today's mathematics. And I think there's a lot of food for thought that we can ponder on in terms of the challenges that we're dealing with today's society. Which goes to my next question is, what is it that I haven't asked you that you would like to address in terms of 5%er knowledge and basically this gift of light of a law that we've been given on this earth and how to use it properly? So anything that I haven't asked and you would like to share?
Hmm. we have a lesson in our lessons that says the devil
Hmm.
can't keep and obey the laws of Islam.
Right.
And let's look at this country, not just America, but mainly America. Let's look at it. This country was founded on Islamic law.
Yeah, that's right. Obama said that too on Muslim law.
Yes. So let's look at what's been happening. And it's crazy that Obama said that and went against it because he was the one who passed the law for gays to get married and these little sex changes and all of that. That's completely against the laws of Islam. But this country is ran by the devils, and they
Mhm.
can't keep and obey the laws of Islam,
Right.
no matter how hard they try. So it's not up to you to depend on them. You just keep and obey them yourself.
Individual responsibility.
You know, and this is the point of learning until your last days. Keep on learning
Mm.
because this country has shown us that they won't keep and obey these laws over and over and over. And we're driving ourselves crazy looking for them to change. You know, white supremacy, so-called white supremacy, cannot exist without an inferiority mindset. So knowledge itself is not about changing the it's not about changing the mindset of the devil. The devil is going to be who he is. You just let him be that. It's to change the mindset of the original people who have been taught to hate themselves. When Europeans came to America, they saw civilization. They
Right.
destroyed it and put their own twist on it. When they came to Africa, they saw civilization. When they came to Asia, they saw civilization. Everywhere they went, they saw civilization. So we must get back intact with who we were before the evil Europeans came and taught us to hate ourselves.
Right.
And, one thing that I would like to put out there, a lot of people when studying mysticism, Buddhism, Sufism, all these isms, a lot of people think that you have to go through what that person went through to gain the knowledge that they had.
Right.
Buddha did not go through what he went through. Buddha left his kingdom. He was sheltered from the world. He left that to enlighten himself.
Mhm.
And all of the suffering that he went through, you and I don't have to go through it to learn from his wisdom. He went through it already so that we don't have to. You know, it's just like when people come into studying Islam, they think that you have to go back and live the way that the Prophet Muhammad did. No, if you really look at the things that the Prophet Muhammad was talking about, you know, I'm talking about really dig into what he was talking about. He talked about the world having tall skyscrapers and stuff like that. A lot of people don't even know this.
Yeah, no, they don't.
You know, they just think of a man on a camel fighting oppression and stuff like that. No, No, this is way deeper than that. The way that the world is now, with these tall buildings and thriving civilizations, Muhammad spoke on this.
Yeah, he referred to it as the end times when people would start basically worshiping the materialism rather than Allah, the creator. And he would say that would be the signs of the end times where people will be serving their hubris and ego, and that would be the God that they're claiming to serve. Right.
Exactly. Many people don't understand what transcending means. You know, let's transcend from the knowledge that our forefathers gave us. You know, we don't have to go through what they went through to be as wise as them. Let's transcend from what they gave us. You know, in that book I was talking about earlier by Alan Watts, Buddhism, the Religion of No Religion. Basically, in a nutshell, what he meant by that, and naming it that, is that he said religion was like medicine given to sick people, like when the doctor prescribes you a bottle of medicine. But after you are done with the medicine and there is no more medicine in the bottle, what do you do with the bottle? You throw it out. You no longer need it. And you grow from that. You know, let's transcend and continue to grow. We can still enjoy all of these things that we have today, but we can enjoy it with righteousness rule. You know, we can still have these luxurious things in life. Let's just be intact with our righteousness.
That's right. It's absolutely right. And I thank you for pointing all of that out because those are the things that need to be addressed. And we're looking at all of these times, and people are not knowing these teachers, these great teachers that have walked this earth already, whether it was Moses, Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, Solomon, peace be upon them all, that came and taught the lessons that they did. So if we're failing to take heed from these great messengers and teachers, including Father Allah, then it's our responsibility to know what's right and wrong. And I thank you for pointing that out, which goes to my question is those that are looking to, let's say, get started into the 5%, whether they're white, black, Pakistani, whoever they are, if they're looking to learn about the truth about the 5%ers and to get that education, how would you advise them properly?
To do it properly, I would say look into it because there's a cipher near you. We are in all states. We're even outside of the United States. You know, there's 5% in Canada, Mexico, South America, all over. So, you know, first, you know, look within, you know, your community. If it's hard to find, you know, get in contact with the law school in Mecca. The number is right on the front and go from there. But, you know, looking for lessons in supreme mathematics and alphabet online is dangerous because sometimes those things may not be right and exact.
That's right.
And you always want to get it right and exact. And you should always look into what an organization or nation, you should always look into what they are about first. And I would also say, you know, looking at actual 5%ers who are authors of books like Supreme Understanding, Starmella Law, Saladin Quana Law. You know, those are actual 5%ers, and they have great books, and they can give you an insight on what we teach and how we live. So I would say, you know, start looking in your community first. If you can't find them in your community, get in contact with the law school and find you an educator and just start taking, the steps from there.
Got it. Got it. And that, whoever is listening with the audience, please take heed to what our brother is teaching you, because right now in the online world, he's right. There is a lot of deception that's going on. So make sure you get in touch with the proper cipher, the proper sources around you, go through the proper channels. So that way, that knowledge of the 5% nation and Father Allah is being taught to you properly from the right sources. So I thank you, my brother, for teaching the things that you have. So right now, what would you say in terms of, let's say, the separation that I've seen taking place here in this country, whether it's between the white woman and the white man, the black woman and the black man, where there's like such a big understanding that I see where nobody wants to deal with each other. And from that perspective of the 5% nation, what do you see happening and what is the way to resolve that? Especially, I'm here in the Philadelphia area, so I see that a lot, the hatred and separation that has occurred between the two.
Yes, yes. You know, the separation that is taking place between man and woman is extremely dangerous, because we have women who really genuinely think that they don't need men at all.
Mhm.
And that's going to make the population levels go down. And then life will be is not as beautiful as we
Mm.
see it.
Right.
That's a very dangerous mind state to have, because we are a reflection of each other. We can't exist without each other. Bottom line.
I agree.
So we have to get you know proper knowledge of ourselves, and through the knowledge of ourselves, we will come into the understanding that we are being lied to.
Mhm.
So the answer to that, I would say, is to seek the knowledge of yourself. And to my European brothers and sisters, though you have a bad history on this planet, you don't have to let that be who you are. You should look into the good, righteous people who left behind great knowledge. Like the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He has a book called Meditation, and he was a Stoic. He practiced Stoicism. You look at a lot of the things that he taught. He said that no outside forces have power in your life. That is all in your mind, and that is absolute truth. Marcus Aurelius was a very brilliant man, and he had great philosophy. Look into people like him, Alan Watts, Neville Goddard. You know, people who taught the truth. You don't have to let the bad histories, shame you. Yes, it is the truth. Yes, that is what happened. But you must walk in this life alone. You was born alone, you will die alone. So
That's
you
it.
you will you can live your own life. You don't have to do what your forefathers did.
Hmm.
And until, my people, so-called blacks and Negroes,
Right.
we should learn from our mistakes.
Hmm.
And we should, a lot of my people are getting into this thing called ancestral worship. And to me, what I would say, the best form of that is to conquer their ideas. because the dead cannot do anything for the living. Only the living can do for the living.
Right.
So let's learn from their mistakes and let's conquer their great ideas, because this is not what our ancestors had in plan for us. You know, we come from a great, mighty people. We were
You
first,
know,
and
that's great, my brother. That's great. All the things that you're sharing. I'm just taking it all in.
yeah, you know, we were first, we were last, and now the last shall be first. But don't take that in an arrogant way, because with power comes responsibility. You know, the white man is not responsible. The so-called white man is not responsible for himself because he didn't get here alone. He's not doing what he hasn't been taught to do. So
Yep.
we have to lead by example.
Mhm.
He's only doing what he was taught to do, to be
Mhm.
destructive, to do things like that. But like those great men who were Europeans that I spoke about, they chose a righteous route. They chose to be outside of the so-called social norm. And they left behind a great legacy. But as again, you know, what I was saying, you know, for my people, so-called Negroes, blacks, you know, we the only way that we will rise up out of the hell that we are in is to get the knowledge of ourselves. It's the only way. And let's transcend from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, Duce Muhammad Ali, Father of Allah, Dr. Khalid, Farrakhan. You know, let's transcend from those teachings that they gave us and grow. Because this whole thing of being the individual mindset of doing it alone is a very dangerous mind today. Yes, you were born alone and you will die alone, but human beings are social creatures. Just ask any man who's been in prison, who sat in a cell by himself. He'll tell you that sitting in a cell by himself drove him crazy because he wasn't able to talk to anybody. That's
That,
not
that's
how
what
you
they
want to live.
that's what they promote in this country, individualism. They tell you you don't need anybody, just do you. And that's not the truth, because Prophet Muhammad, Christ, they needed their brethren, their disciples, their companions, because we're walking each other home.
Yeah.
And I thank you so much for sharing that, because I see that in this country, the aspect of individualism.
And it's bad. Like, yes, it's true. We get it. Born alone, die alone. But that's a slippery slope, because when you were born, that's just your introduction in the world. And when you
Yes.
die, that's just you physically leaving this world. But that's not it. You was meant to live your life to your fullest potential. That is the plan. And to leave behind a great legacy for your family. You can't do that alone, because family has to what? Come together. This is the
Right.
point of having holidays. Holidays were meant to bring people together and to take stress out of life. When life gets a little too hard, it's good to celebrate and to come together with your family. That was the point of holidays, you know, to celebrate family, unity. And we really have to get back to that, because individualism is not working, it's failing.
Yeah,
And if we
that's
don't,
absolutely right.
and the one who doesn't have the power to show people how to balance,
Mhm.
those people really need to take charge and get out there teaching, because You have to show the people the balance because it's destroying the planet. All of this stuff that we see through global warming, this comes from a careless human mind, littering and things like that.
Right.
A lot of these things we could simply solve just by picking trash up off the ground and putting it in a trash can, recycling. We can easily change that problem by recycling, you know, and people littering, that shows you the mind
Mhm.
state of where people is at, a careless mind. Because you can go to some of the poorest countries and
Mhm.
see people with a better mindset.
Mhm.
When my father took me outside of the country, when he took me to Morocco when I was a kid, I saw why people say that Americans are assholes. Hey, I see why people say that. Like I remember being in the airport in Morocco and somebody bumped into me and he turned around and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you." But in America, no, we would just keep on walking because we're rude,
Yeah.
you know. So traveling is good. You should get outside of the country and see how other people interact because
Mhm.
you learn from.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And that's what opened up my eyes because most people here in America, my brother, they're limited to their small town suburbs, their town, their city, and their experience of life doesn't extend beyond that. They're growing up with the same people, they're marrying with their own, they're sticking with their own. So America claims to be this melting pot, but it's definitely, from what I've seen, it's a set of different ethnic enclaves and communities that separate each other and just kind of stick with their own and deal with their own. And I've seen that. And you're right, it's that aspect of individualism, disunity, and right now we're in a time period where everyone can make a channel, make a podcast, write a book. If you have some kind of knowledge to share with the world to help people, put it out there without any hesitation if it could help somebody. So I thank you for addressing that part as well. And just going all over the world, it just shows you how the same struggle that we're in between pro righteousness and anti devilishment, we're dealing with this globally, everywhere. So humanity's at a period right now where, just like you said, pick up the trash where you see it, like small acts and deeds. And step by step, if enough people start doing it, we can start improving the world. That is that is so much needed. And I thank you for sharing that, my brother, with how you put it into the articulation that you did.
Yes, just you know, small deeds can create big change. You
Hmm.
know, small things can be powerful. Like a mosquito is like this big, but it can bite you and irritate your skin and make you feel uncomfortable. Something that small with so much power.
Right. Well, I mean, that just goes to show you even what Marcus Aurelius said, that sometimes everything is right here. So the concept of being heaven and hell, even what Sufism teaches you, that your inner reality is what will project your exterior reality. So if you're good inside, then that's what you will project because everything is a mirror. And if you're suffering from the inside, then it is suffering you will project on the outside. So get yourself right first because know thyself and know thy Lord. And even what Rumi says, that I tried to find Allah, I only found myself. I tried to find myself, but only found Allah. And that tells you that it's you, what you're looking for. And to find Allah or God in whichever way you perceive that divinity, you will find it in a place where you least expect. And that's the human heart. That's exactly where it is. And I thank you, my brother, for the knowledge that you have given us. So, to close this podcast, any closing thoughts or remarks, and how the viewers can find you if they're interested in making contact?
Uh, yeah, you can find me on Facebook. The only reason why my Facebook name looks weird is because Facebook doesn't want you to have your righteous name on there. And so I put little Frank Matthews on there, but in the middle it says Wise Asiatic. And that's how you can find me. I'm really not on too many social media platforms like that, but you could find me on Facebook, and you can get in contact with me through there. But I do plan on start my own YouTube channel soon, and I'll be putting that out on my page. So be on the lookout for that. And I'll be sharing, information on, today's mathematics, lessons, even things on, from the books that I'm reading
Mhm.
and things like that. And one more thing that I would like to put out there is that the mind is the most powerful thing that you have. Because right now I'm going through something, tragic that I've been dealing with for 3 years. I had a spinal cord injury, and I'm learning how to walk again. And from day one, I always kept it in mind that I'll get it back. And just because it hasn't came quick enough doesn't mean that it's not coming. And me keeping my faith, which faith is only trust,
Right.
and me keeping my faith that I will, I kept it up here, and now I can feel my legs move. I can feel my toes move just from me keeping it up here. So when they say a mind is a terrible thing to waste, it is, because if I would have listened to people who was telling me, oh yeah, you probably should just give up and just get used to being in that wheelchair, that would probably be my reality for the rest of my life. So it is you. Always look within. And sometimes things don't come quickly, but they come on time.
Thank you, my brother. And I want to give you, when you make your YouTube channel, when I post this video on my channel, you have full rights to this video. You can download it, share it, distribute it, however you see fit. So when this is uploaded, this video is yours, however you choose to use it. So I thank you for that and the lessons that you have given us. And you are right. It's our trust in ourselves and realizing this life when they teach us about like chasing after money, degrees, ego, and doing each other dirty. At the end, it's all about what good did you do for yourself and others. Life is fragile, and we might have it today, we don't have it tomorrow. But we need this knowledge that you have given us to love each other, to walk this path of light that we're on, to know we need to do the right thing while we have the time to do it. So, with that, I give thanks to my brother. Assalamu alaikum and peace be with you and yours. And whoever's watching, please say a good prayer for our brother that Allah continues to heal him, guide him, and protect him in his journey. So, thank you, sir. Peace to the nations of the gods and the earth.
Peace, peace, peace. We'll have to do this again, bro.
Inshallah, we're going to definitely do a part two.
Indeed.